And welcome into the latest edition of the Unpaid Interns. Austin Render joined again by Tamar Scher here on Friday, July 24th. A very fun show that we have planned for you today. We will be joined by both the men's soccer coach in Indiana, Todd Yeagley, and the women's soccer coach, Erwin van Bennekom. We are very excited to talk to both of those guys and get to pick their brains a little bit about soccer here in the upcoming hour. But for now, Tamar, welcome back in. We're happy to have you. Back-to-back shows for you. You know, that's some heavy lifting that you're doing here this week.
It's fun. It is all fun. It is the happiest time of my week when I get to talk to you, talk sports. I'm serious, but I can't wait to be here and talk to the legends, the GOATs, Erwin van Bennekom and Coach Todd Yeagley. So fantastic show lined up.
Yeah, it'll be really fun to get to talk to those guys. We have plenty to talk about with them. But before we get into that, I do want to talk because we had live baseball that actually counted for something last night. Back-to-back games on the new opening day on ESPN. Fittingly, the first one gets in a lightning delay and never finishes, and they call it after in the sixth inning. But Tamar, what does it mean? You're a big St. Louis fan. They'll kick things off today. I already saw you tweeting with Tom Ackerman this morning about it. What does it mean to you to have baseball back?
Gosh, I mean, this is St. Louis. We live for Cardinals baseball, and now we live for the Blues, but it's always historically been Cardinals baseball. So I am so excited. It's going to mean so much to the city. I just was reading up on bars are opening, but at limited capacity, of course, for the Cardinal Open tonight at Busch Stadium against the Royals. I'm so excited. And last night, a St. Louis guy performed in Max Scherzer. Unfortunately, he didn't get the hits to back him up for the Nationals, but he had 11 strikeouts last night. It was just so fun to be able to have a full night going past midnight of baseball. And you said last time that you weren't the biggest baseball fan, but I am. So any baseball listeners on this pod today, I am a huge baseball fan. I'm so excited to get back into it and see what everything is going to look like. And then also last night, what I liked, I'm really a fan of the cardboard cutouts. I don't know about you, but when I saw that, I just felt, even though it's not the same, of course, but I liked the sound effects and I liked the cutouts because it gave it something.
Interesting. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, you mentioned Max Scherzer in the loss, went 5 1/3, 6 hits, 4 runs, but 11 strikeouts, as you said. They just couldn't do anything, the Nationals. They had one hit, and that was a home run. That's not going to get the job done. And that ends up hurting them. They lose 4-1 to the Yankees. Aaron Judge was 2 for 3. Giancarlo Stanton was 2 for 3 with 3 RBI. Those two had all 4 RBI for the Yankees in a 4-1 win. Garrett Cole pitched 5 innings of work, only 1 hit. That was the home run, 5 strikeouts and a walk. In the late game, as you said, Tamar, it went after midnight out there in LA. It was 1-1 going into the bottom of the 7th, and then the Dodgers put a 5 spot up in the 7th, 2 more in the 8th, and they went 8-1. They were led by Hernandez, who went 4 for 5 with 5 RBI, and a great opening day for him. And on the mound, it was a collection of pitchers for both teams. The Giants used 6, the Dodgers used 5. And the Dodgers get the win in the rivalry 8-1. Let's transition to our first guest. He has joined the podcast here. He is the head coach of the Indiana men's soccer program, Todd Yeagley. Coach, we are very happy to have you. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Let's get things started with your past few months. I mean, it's been a crazy few months for everybody. I'm sure your schedule has been no different. What has it been like not being able to get out on the pitch, not being able to be with your team? Kind of how have you kind of handled things?
It's been challenging. I mean, we say this is kind of once in a lifetime. So yeah, what you're typically used to, your rhythm, everything that you're used to doing. We're very much creatures of habit, and we like to plan and organize as coaches and have rhythm. And that's certainly not the case. So, we tried to just turn that and use that as an opportunity for the guys and our staff to get better at things we wouldn't have necessarily the time to do. And whether that's professional development, getting to know our teammates and our kids and their teammates in a deeper way, that with some fun interactive games and whatnot. We try to do as much, video via Zoom to keep them engaged in thinking about the game. So we did everything we could that we felt was kind of the right balance. It's always hard to know that, because when you don't see people and have that face-to-face interaction, it's hard to really know, how they're feeling. And that's a big part of coaching and teaching, is just that face-to-face understanding of how someone's doing. So that's a challenge, but we're doing the best we can.
And what's been your message to your team amidst all of this uncertainty? Positive, just uplifting, how to go forward from this?
It's been consistent in the sense of, like, all we know is what we know today, and be present in that process to prepare for a fall season. And so whether it was March 15th, with the challenges not even being at school and just losing the end of our spring season, to all the unknowns that came in those 4 months after, we just kept reminding them, we won't be able to control the outcomes of decisions, be it the actual virus itself or the people that make decisions with regards to our season and how we'll operate. So control what you can. And we say that all the time. So this was a true full challenge in that, of, staying present, doing what you can do, prepare as if the season was going to be or is on at the time that we said, and be ready for curveballs. And we said that too, be ready for some curveballs, and we've certainly got plenty.
How have you been able to stay in contact with the guys, even with everyone being stuck at home the past few months?
It's been primarily, Zoom sessions. Obviously, we'll get on the phone and talk to some individuals from time to time if we feel like there's something else we want to hit. But at least you can see them. Although it's in their childhood bed sometimes, at 9 in.the with their, under U12 plaque next to their bed, and you're just like, what's going on here? Mom walking in, bringing breakfast, the dogs, you name it. I mean, same thing with my house. Who knows who's coming in the room, and it's all pretty comical at times. But yeah, Zoom and phone calls. Even our staff, it's been tough because I wanted them to be able to go and see their families. So we haven't really seen each other much as well, face to face. So yeah, it's been the best. And luckily we do have technology. I couldn't even imagine 20 years ago, trying to handle this with what we would have had. I guess we wouldn't have known otherwise, but I think this platform at least allows us to be somewhat productive and move forward.
Austin had that problem last podcast because his dog was coming into the frame and whining. So we totally get it. And that's why it's so wonderful we get to be here and talk sports in some capacity. But we're moving away from coronavirus talk, because I'm sure you've been asked these questions so many times. But transitioning last year, there was so much pressure on filling gaps after losing all but one starter from the 2018 College Cup team. So this year, that's not necessarily the case, but there's still some gaps to fill in Jack Mayer, Aiden Morris. So how has that process been?
It's a very different the standpoint of heading into a preseason, of knowing all the question marks. We have a lot of returning options. Whether they started last year, or maybe some that are moved into a rotation role that are maybe ready to take another step. We have a good group of incomers. We have 9 total, 7 freshmen, 2 transfers. The transfers were really specifically to where we felt our most immediate needs were, and what was available on the transfer market, if you will. With Callum being a really high-end center back, we felt that would be an important position to have some experience. We do have some young players developing really well, But his experience, be it at Denver or internationally, is really good. And then obviously Nick Sessex has a lot of experience at Pitt, playing 2 years for a very good side. And then our 7 freshmen, I think, are all capable at different points of their career to get on the field. Some maybe more immediate, but not having to rely on them day one is obviously a nice feeling going in. Although I feel that they're going to be pushing, and that's what you need. You need your upperclassmen to feel that positive pressure on their heels, so that they show up every day and they understand that they need to perform and continue to move forward. So the competition, I think, will be better this year because of the returners having some experience and now this new group. So I'm excited for that. Competition's healthy. Keep our office busy with questions, but that's a good problem.
Well, how has the return to campus been like for you and the team, trying to get everybody back out there? What does a socially distant soccer workout look like?
Well, we're still not able to be with them. Basketball and football can be. So just our strength coach, Tom Morris, and our trainer are able to be there. So we're not with them yet. They're doing everything, all the protocols that they have to do. I think what's true, and this is from the guys talking to me, they've done what they needed to do at home. And we kept saying to them, guys, you just can't expect to come here and then we get you ready. That's not going to work. So the work they did at home, although it was difficult to replicate the movement, the running, you're not maybe in your cleats, you're not on the field, you're doing it maybe on a treadmill or outside on pavement. It's still different, but I feel like physically, from what I'm hearing from the upperclassmen, they're in a pretty good spot. And that you can't make up for lost time. The playing, the technical part, it's like we always say, it's like riding a bike. You just got to get back on it and just get reps, and they'll get that. Might be a bit rusty for some, but again, a lot of them have been on fields back homes. They've probably jumped on about every high school and rec field they could find to get touches during this time. And you got a real motivated group with our soccer team. So this was not a case of I'm worried that these guys took 4 months and did very little. I never once thought that because of the motivation that this group has.
And has there been a lot of pressure put on, once we get back to school, keeping it in that bubble, or how have you gone about those conversations of making sure that it stays consistent as students return to campus?
Yeah, it's there's we're asking them to do everything they can when they're around the department, and asking them to make good decisions off the field. To be honest, the bubble that college will be is a very different bubble than what you'll see in the NBA or MLS down in Orlando, or the WNBA in Bradenton. You just can't replicate that in a college environment. So it's like anything, you just try to give them the best advice, and you cross your fingers and hope the next day we have healthy guys that can train. That's all we can do. So it's a real tough ask when you have 20-year-olds that are social in nature and want to be with one another, but yet at the same time have a much different responsibility than the general student body when they return. There's not a game to play. There's not a practice to get ready for. So you have a lot of distractions that our guys are going to have to manage. And this will be the toughest task ever in with a student athlete.
You mentioned the MLS's back tournament. Quite a few Hoosiers playing in that. A couple of the recent graduates, Mason Toy, Andrew Gutman. What is it like to kind of turn on your TV, see those guys playing, see those guys making an impact? And what is that like to see a former Hoosier making an impact in the MLS's back tournament?
It's been fun. I mean, this month of July has been a heck of a lot better for me personally, just getting my fix. I mean, obviously the EPL was jumping on earlier, which was fun, but to get games, up to 2 to 4 games a day. And many of the games, when you obviously tune in, it's going to be a player that played for us, or certainly someone that we know very well, a past opponent, or you name it. So it's been really fun. I know the bubble has now been a success. There were some challenges early with it, but they really have kind of created I call it an adult soccer camp environment where they're just all in the little soccer fantasy world, living and breathing down there. No one leaves it. No one comes in, and, they're getting the games in. It's obviously strange to watch those games. Those are the fields that we recruit on every year at the Disney Showcase. I've sat at that exact, spot where the TV is, and I'm like, it's interesting to watch a pro game on the fields that you were watching 16-year-olds on just a couple years earlier. But yeah, our guys are doing really well. Some of them are, getting into rotation minutes. Some are just kind of getting into the mix. I feel like the substitution and the ability to use more players at this particular time has been really helpful for our guys. Some of them have gotten in because of that substitution rule. And then you look at a player like Andrew Gutman, one tough game for Cincinnati. They then changed their lineup a little bit, and now he's in, and 2 games later they've won 2, and he looks to be in a great spot, heading forward. So it can come in waves. I tell him to be patient because you'll have some major highs and lows in the pro world. So I try to stay in touch with them the best I can. But yeah, it's really fun for me personally and our staff to see those guys continue to have success.
Has there been someone that stood out to you in the tournament itself? Is it Gutman?
Well, I think Andrew's done a really nice. I mean, certainly he came in and did a nice job in the second half of the second game, or the first game when they were down against the Crew. That was a tough game for Cincinnati. I thought he performed well in his second game, and then this third game, I thought he did well as well. So, some of the games are challenging because of the tactical approaches. I thought Mason, in one of his games, the team sat really deep. They didn't have much of the ball. It's really hard for a striker to get involved and feel as though he's getting some of his worth in the game. So kind of felt for Mason in that regard. But some of the other guys that have gotten in with Griff and Justin, have done a nice job in their limited minutes. Lee Wynn has gotten in, done some appearance. Drew Moore, journeyman, which was really fun to have him on our podcast with the team. That was actually one of the real fun things that we've never done, is getting some of our alums on some Zoom sessions and having our guys interact with them, because it would only be if they were here on campus that we would do that. And now I feel like that's now a new thing that we'll add to our program, because they can do it anytime, and obviously our guys can jump on a Zoom session. So that was fun. Drew Moore's session was really fun, and we had some other alums on as well that I think the guys got a lot out of.
Fabulous. And speaking to alumni, I'm from St. Louis, and I know that there's a very strong Indiana-St. Louis pipeline that runs in the soccer family at Indiana. So can you speak to, of course, Coach Kevin Robeson, have to mention him, and you got the Mayer brothers and Daniel Muni and AJ Palazzo. The list goes on and on.
She really likes her St. Louis.
I feel bad. I would have to bring it up, of course. Yeah. But how beneficial has that relationship been between St. Louis, Indiana, and in terms of just recruiting those guys?
Oh, it's been enormous. And it started in the 70s. Those were some of the most important early recruits that my father brought in. And that pipeline just grew. And it's from good experiences. The next player telling the younger player, going back to their youth coach, their high school coach, and saying IU was an awesome experience. On and off the field, that just builds that. And then once you have that, then it's a natural, because your players are your best recruiters. When they go back and talk about their experience, whether that being when they're here or after. So there is not a more passionate alumni base than our St. Louis, and those guys are proud. And they're always there to support us in any way. And you're right, St. Louis people love St. Louis, maybe more than any other city. I mean, the Chicago guys everyone's got their loyalty, but St. Louis, there's something. Maybe it's that Emo's Pizza you guys get brainwashed with early. I don't know.
Toasted ravioli.
Toasted raviolis. Yeah, I'm not sure how you guys claim that. And gooey butter cake. I don't know, again, how that's claimed to St. Louis. But again, that's all good. And you're loyal to your city. And I always say there's something special, and they love sports. It's one of the things that I've noticed through all the years of our St. Louis players. There is a love for sports outside of soccer, and they are proud and they love sports. So we love the St. Louis guys, and we want to keep that pipeline really strong.
And I say that because I had a conversation with Jack Mayer and Daniel Muni last year, and it was just so cool to see how they grew up together, and kind of Jack pulled him in and said, "Hey, check out Indiana. This is
Right.
a good place to be. So you have a wonderful program, and it's consistent that people just keep wanting to come from St. Louis. So just had to get that in there. Sorry, Austin.
Kevin Robeson is, I mean, he's the top recruiter in the country, no doubt. And, you know, I think we would fill our whole team with St. Louis if I gave him the green light to do it. I do say there's other cities that we need to recruit to, but all joking aside, he's phenomenal, and he epitomizes St. Louis to a T. I mean, he's a Chaminade, you know, legend. Loved his time there. Was part of obviously championship teams here. Kevin is a big reason why St. Louis is continued to be a hot spot for us.
I saw it in the rundown. I knew it was coming. That she added that question this morning. So, but you mentioned some of like your older players and getting to be your own recruits and getting to talk with some of the alumni. Have you been able to, this may be more difficult via Zoom meetings, but have you been able to see anyone kind of trying to become like taking that leadership role, taking an extra step to try and help the young guys through one of the most uncertain times any of us have been in?
Yeah, I think some of our older guys have done that, and you know, one that pops out a little bit, I think Thomas War is really stepped up in this time, and it's been really organic in the sense that, you know, the way he's interacted, the way that his questions, he's been really responsive to, you know, all the group sessions that we've done, because we've done a lot of positional breakdown meetings. And Thomas, along with some other older guys, they've also just stayed on the other calls that have nothing to do with like his. We're trying to make it unique to positions, but yet we all know that some of the stuff every player needs to know. But Thomas, as an older player, you know, stayed on some of the defending clips, which again was not asked to do, but he just did it anyhow, and just showed that extra little step. So yeah, Thomas, along with some others. I mean, Spencer's one of our returning captains, and he's very good at communicating and organizing. I think Joe Schmidt has stepped up in this time the best he can to really help with guys in the Zoom world and staying connected. You know, AJ does it in his own way. I think he's much more feels good when it's in the person and he's on the field doing what he does than maybe necessarily in a virtual world. So those are some guys that I think have, not to exclude others, but they have taken a step forward in saying, hey, we got to help these younger guys who, you know, we had so many freshmen, and they do at times, you know, you can look on a Zoom call and you can see just body language, your younger players and your older players. And when you have your older players just that much more locked in to whatever it might be, whether it's just sitting up, you know, in their bed, and I don't have requirements because you can listen and learn by laying down, but just the extra little detail really shows. And the young guys, I don't need to say it, but they're seeing it. And that's really the best way to learn and lead, is not, you know, preaching this is what we have to do, but just showing that's the way to do it. So that's been really good from the older players.
St. Louis is a great city, but so is Bloomington in terms of its love for sports. And I do want to kind of talk about, I know there may not be fans and it just may not be the same this year, but what has the support of the Bloomington community meant to the IU soccer program the past few seasons, or really your whole tenure at IU?
I mean, there's no doubt that, you know, you see it during the tournament. When the students are here, we still have a really good, you know, fan support. The Bloomington community has always been very, very supportive to men's soccer in all of our sports. But I would say we do have a lot of, you know, diehard fans that, you know, maybe didn't even play the sport. You know, I get a lot of emails from professors who, you know, didn't play the sport, but, you know, might send a note on, hey, I really enjoyed, you know, watching your team play, or I really enjoyed having so-and-so in a class representing your program. And that means a lot. And those are key people to our community. And then obviously the relationship we have with the local sports club with Cutters. Tommy Berry did play here at Indiana. He's the director of coaching, and a lot of the coaches that he has and the camps that we do, the day camp is really an outreach camp for us to stay connected with the young kids in Bloomington. And I think them to meet our staff and to meet some of the players that help with the camp is a way to make it much more real, So when they come to the game, whether they're a ball boy or they're up in the stands, they remember, oh, AJ was at camp. He helped me, with my group. That means a lot. And so we don't take that for granted. We have to work at those relationships. And the Bloomington community has been really good to us, and it's one that's very important.
Incredible. And back in May, speaking to Bloomington, it may feels like forever ago, but the documentary Worth the Wait debuted on Big Ten Network about the success of the IU men's soccer program and your father's tenure. So can you speak to what your takeaways were from that documentary and how that plays a role into your experience in the program?
Yeah, that was it was a lot of years in the making. That concept, that idea, it was 7-8 years in the making. Honestly, we talked about the importance of capturing our program, but it also came back to what story do you talk about? What do you focus on? And really, once Tucker, who was one of the producers for Blue Line, who grew up as a ball boy, worked our day camp. This is the connection. Went to IU Media School, learned the trade. And his passion for the project, along with some of our alumni, Gary Friesen and Dave Shelton out in North Carolina and some others, you just got this groundswell. And then it just took a lot of right things to happen, and timing and fundraising, and there it went. And next thing you know, we have this piece that's, and again, we were always out of it. One thing that I made clear to my father was that we're not going to be part of this, we're not going to help frame the movie or the documentary. We'll do all the interviews you need, but we're not going to tell you how to go. You go where you feel best the story could go. And there were some questions from time to validate something, but I saw that for the first time 3 weeks before the debut. I never saw a part prior. Tucker sent me a rough draft, a rough cut, and it was very emotional. I watched it from my phone. I couldn't turn it. I couldn't even get to my computer. I was so kind of mesmerized. But to see all the work that went into this, and I think it's a phenomenal documentary. And again, I've talked to a lot of people that are outside of soccer, and they're like, that was a really good piece that would rival any 30 for 30 type. Again, but it's college soccer. It's a niche. But certainly I feel if that was a college football story, that would have been prime time on ESPN. And we're just really proud of it. And when alums and our recruits see that, it gives you a snapshot of what it's all about. Because it touched on all aspects. It wasn't just about, the success, and there was a lot of things not in the movie, but about the human piece, the relationships. I think the joy and the humor that we have in our program was there, and certainly got a family feel. So all that in there, kudos to Tucker and Blue Line and all our alums that help get documentation from the club. I mean, some of them had no idea how it became varsity. And Jeff Richardson, his part in the film, him emotionally, this is 1973. He was student body president, and you see him crying in 2018 on what it meant to him. That many years later, just kind of gives you an idea of what, and that's why Jeff's moving back to Bloomington, because he just loves the school and he loves IU soccer. So thanks for asking. That was a special marker for our program.
Well, and I know this list may be long, but what are some of the things? I mean, you followed in the footsteps of your dad. He obviously was incredibly successful. What has he taught you that you've been able to continue on as the head coach at IU?
Well, I learned a lot by watching and listening, and that's the best way to learn. And a lot of things I learned, I probably didn't even know I was learning at the time. But his gift of one, he knows how to put a team together and have all these pieces find a way to have a streamlined mission, and everyone knows their roles. And then the way you put teams together, I always marveled at, because it wasn't always the most talented player that maybe played here or there, but he always found the way, and everyone was able to realize that. And he was masterful at his relationships with his staff, with his players. He loved to have a good time with the guys, and that's again a big part of our DNA is joy and laughter. He enjoys the human element of coaching. He spent as much time with that than he did necessarily with X's and O's, although those are important. He always would say, to run the best program, you need to have the right people, first and foremost, and you always have to give them 100% of your time at all times. And there's some things that I take away that I try to still stay to this day, is like when a player walks in or a player calls, make it the priority at your moment, whatever you're doing, make it that your priority. And his relationships with his players, to this day, I mean, it's amazing, that how many of them, revere the time they had and the impact that he gave. And I got to see that at a young age. So when players would come back and they would tell me when I'm 12, 13, I don't know, whatever ages I were, that your father, your mother, the program shaped their life. It had nothing to do with that was a great championship, a great title, or man, like scored a bunch of goals. Think your dad was a great coach. It was more on the impact. So that stuck with me. So that's what helps guide me every day. And I certainly can get veered off, and we all get competitive and lose sight of some of those. But if you get back to those core values, you have the best chance to be successful, and the winning will take care of itself. It really will.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate your time. We're going to hand it off to now Erwin Van Bennekom, who's coming on. He can hear you, so don't say anything. Oh, now we can
Erwin,
see him too, so don't say anything you'd regret here.
Before I sign off, I would like to, Erwin and that staff, they got women going. I'm pretty pumped, and I'm excited to be in the same facility with them to be able to spend more time, because I'm really excited for the women's program. They're about to explode. So, Erwin, I'll leave it at that. I'm going to sign off. Thanks, guys.
Todd, thanks so much. Take care. All right, that was Todd Yeagley of the IU men's soccer program, and now we welcome in Erwin Van Bennekom of the women's soccer program. Coach, happy to have you. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I'm doing good. It's obviously crazy times, but doing okay. Yeah, thank you. How are you guys?
We're doing good. What have the past couple months been like for you? I mean, this is normally where we're supposed to be getting all amped up, and we still are. There's still supposed to be a season going, but it's been weird. What's it been like for you?
It's been like this on Zoom. That's I feel like I've been sitting behind a desk. Like I opted not to have a desk job when I grew up, and I have one now. So it's tough. It's tough for everybody, and it is what it is. We'll do the best we can, and I think obviously realizing that I don't want a desk job and can't wait to get on the field. And sometimes you realize how much you miss it, and hopefully, I think our student athletes do the same thing. So we'll make a positive out of a negative scenario.
Now, what has the return to campus process been like, and what do socially distant workouts even look like? Are you involved in any way, or how does that work?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not involved. We don't have, it's all voluntary workouts over the summer with our strength coaches, and then they have a lot of time on the field with just the team. But yeah, unfortunately, in our sport, we don't have summer access, which, don't get me started. We got the shortest amount of preseason time of any sport, and we got some other sports are training for hundreds of days prior to their first competition, and we have. It will be a little different this year, obviously, but normally we only have 14 days to get ready for our first game. So hopefully that will change over the years with people getting a better understanding of science and acclimatization to the sport. But yeah, I haven't seen them outside of Zoom, which in all honesty is not really seeing them. So yeah, I think they're doing good, and we check in with them, and I think they're just happy to be back. And then in terms of what they can do, it's I guess we're still in phase 2, which is physical distancing, 6 feet apart training. So I think they've been doing that, and it's better than nothing. It's better than training by yourself. So I think they're all really happy to be together and work out together and play the game they love to play, even with the restrictions there are. So.
Well, I know when you're rebuilding a program, it has some similarities to what we're dealing with right now, with trying to stay positive, trying to stay optimistic, even in the ups and downs of a rebuilding type of atmosphere. So what has your message been to try and keep the team positive and keep yourself optimistic for the season?
Yeah, I think, not that I have so much life experience, but I think part of growing up is controlling what you can control, and not everything is just getting better every day, and just learn to deal with it. And I'm not saying so much suck it up, but like, it is what it is, right? And you can't control everything. So, especially younger people, and I was the same, and I am still a little bit the same. It's hard when you can't control something. And so I think just going through this and knowing that, it's going to get better at some point, and that the only thing we can do is do the right things, and follow the protocols and follow the rules, and be ready for whenever our next game is, whether that's September 10th, spring next season, September 10th of 2021. We don't know. And I think almost like acknowledging that we don't know when the next game is, but we're ready, be ready no matter what.
And of course, the Big Ten announced they are only having conference play, so no non-conference games. Because you can't even be in the same room as your players, what kind of mindset are you putting them in to kind of get ready and gear up for those intense matchups?
Yeah, it's obviously just playing Big Ten we have a less number of games this season, but every game is a fun game. Like, not that, with all respect to any other opponents, like, I love a Big Ten game is just different. It's better. There's a better atmosphere. There's better teams. It just means a lot more. So if we can go forward and just play a full-on Big Ten schedule every single year, I'll be happy with it. It won't be the case. But yeah, so we definitely took that. Right now we're going to be scheduled for 14 games instead of the normal 18 games, but 14 Big Ten games over 18, a mixed match. I think the 14 is pretty positive. Obviously, we'll see what happens and where it leads to. And I said from the beginning, right? If you keep winning, you can get the max amount of games, which is Big Ten tournament, NCAA tournament. You can add up, and I've been in that scenario. You can add up to 9 games if we wanted to. So we have everything. Again, we talk about the controllables, and that's one of them. Is that realistic to win? 9 games after Big Ten? I don't know we're there yet, but it is in our control.
Coach Yeagley has some confidence in you, though.
That's nice. That's nice. And I know you guys are going to ask that question, like everybody has for the last year and a half. It's like, how are you guys going to get to where the men's program is at? I'm like,
no, I was just going to ask how Todd has helped you. How has he kind of been a helpful tool in your intro to Indiana soccer?
Oh, they've been, and Todd and his staff and Coach Yeagley, Jerry, they've been amazing. And I think I was very aware of what they've done in their culture and the respect that, I think we've shown, but Todd has been so gracious with his time, and, just spending time talking about the game, but also about the culture here in Indiana, the sports culture, the soccer culture, and we'll take anything. Women's soccer is a little different in the sense of how recruiting works and everything, but there's so many things that we've picked up and is already benefiting us. So just time, and the connections in the soccer community through our men's program, and especially in certain areas of the country, is really deep. And one guy that might have had a friend play here has a sister that is a good player. That helps. So and I think that what Todd was saying about that new facility and kind of Indiana soccer, right? The men's program, what they've done in the past, it's not one program, it's 2 programs, but we want to be part of this overall. We can't just jump in and say, okay, we're going to be part of it, but we're kind of piggyback riding on what they've done and trying to install some of the pieces that they've installed over the years, and in between Todd and his dad, what they've done. And we've learned so much, and we'll continue to do so. And we're so fortunate to be around them. And now with the new facility, they can't run away either. So that's nice.
You touched on what Coach Yeagley said as well, with players are the best recruits you can get. So having a good name for your program and setting that standard, that good positive DNA in your team is really important. So that's fantastic. And shifting off a little bit, Austin and I wanted, of course, there are so many things to talk about going on right now, but we wanted to touch on your upbringing as a soccer enthusiast in the Netherlands. Where did your love for the game really come from?
Yeah, just my family and just, I think culture, there's nothing better than culture. Like you just can't get away from it. If you grow up and you're somewhat athletic and have somewhat of an ability, you go play soccer. And if you're not good enough at soccer, you go do other sports. Now there is some exceptions, but that's kind of what it is. And there was no way I was able to even think about playing another sport. And I think that's why the US is so different. You grow up here and you can go in 12 different directions. You put the TV on, there's from American football to cornhole championships, everything is on. You put the TV in Holland, there's nothing else on than soccer for 11 and a half months and then speed skating for 2 weeks. So there's just no way out. So it's purely a cultural thing. And you just fall in love with the game. And if every one of your family members and every one of your friends, plays the game, there's no way out. So
we know that there's a whole different way of soccer in Europe and in other places around the globe than the United States. How have you in your time in the States kind of realized the way, like what are some of the differences between the way the Dutch play and the way Americans play?
Or, I think it's hard to, we're all trying to do the same thing. We try to, put the ball in the net more than the other team does it in your net. And how you go about it, and from a stylistic standpoint, it doesn't really matter. There's different teams all over the world, in the US, in England, in Holland, play different ways. The Dutch style of soccer is a little different than what we're trying to do with our program. It's not just, it used to be really this country play this way and the Italians play this way and the Americans play this way. It's all intertwined now because, the US had national team coaches from Germany and it's all over the place. It's a big mix, even in the MLS now and in the women's game, in the NWSL, you see all these different styles. So it's not just, America is this way. I do believe that the culture that from other American sports filters still comes into the soccer game of a little bit frantic, everything has to be high pace all the time. Right? People think that the game of soccer is boring. You have to be running around the whole time, and where maybe tactics are not as important. And I think slowly that it's changing a little bit. So I've seen it getting better here in the US. The college game is certainly getting better, which is fun to see and better. Right? There's so many ways to win games, and I'm the last one to judge on how that is. Where but. It's getting there, and it's so excited, to see the MLS being back and the women's league expanding and growing, the professional league, and there's opportunities for women now to become pros here in the US. So it's getting better, and it's not an overnight process. When people say, "Oh, the US is when are they going to win a World Cup?" It might never happen. It never happened, but I think it's going to get better every year. So,
what are some of the leagues that have kind of caught your eye that you've been watching to try and fill your lack of your own soccer this summer? What are some of the leagues you've had your eye on?
So first of all, the NWSL, the National Women's Soccer League, obviously came back in Utah for their tournament, and I've coached a lot of the women in that league. Some of the time at Duke, some of the time in the pros, and my girlfriend actually played in the league as well for a long time. So we have a lot of people that I know. I know a lot of the coaches. So that's just been fun. To watch in the finals on TV tomorrow, watch a little bit of the MLS, and then obviously the Premier League and the Bundesliga. So there is enough. It's a little different, without seeing fans in the stadium, but it definitely filled the needs.
What do you feel about the artificial crowd noise? I got to know. Are you a fan? Are you not a fan?
No, I can't stand it. It seems always to be off as well with the timing of the
just a little
television
bit, yeah.
and yeah. So no, it's I'm muted most of the time.
So we're different because in the open today, I said that I was a fan of the crowd noise for MLB in particular. So
Yeah.
I'm more versed in that than soccer. So I cannot really say you have that opinion. You watch it, I'm sure, all the time, but we have a differing opinion on that one. But I wanted to speak to your mindset with your program right now. This is a new squad for you. You're still building. There's still a lot of confidence in you with what you can do for this team. So what's your coaching style? How have you really kind of come into the program and wanted to make it your own?
Yeah, I think the style is always, I'm a pretty, I'm up front. Everybody knows where they stand all the time. But I think where the program was a year and a half ago to where it is now, it's changing and it's evolving, and it will continue to change for however long I'm here. Right, every day will be a little different. So I think for me, my job is to constantly adjust to where we are that day or where we are that week, and constantly tweak like the way our team goes about things now, and the way they hold each other accountable, and the standards that are being held are way more on the team now than it was all on our staff and on myself a year and a half ago. So that's slowly transitioning, and I think that's the sign of progress and of that the team takes more accountability in the little things in off the field, but also how we train, how we work out, how we go about things. So that's evolving. I think my personality is high energy. I'm on it, and that won't change. But our team will change, and our personality will change. So I'm so happy with them. I think they've shown tremendous growth, even in tough times, and even in the last couple months. And so I'm so excited, and I actually can't wait to see them all and to start working with them again.
Well, I've read some things about you trying to participate back when there's not COVID, but trying to participate in practice, throwing some shots up and whatnot. How active are you still in terms of training with the team?
Well, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Not
the
anymore.
main reason is I'm trying to, it first of all, it's hard to jump in because they're pretty good, or some of them are, they're very good, and it's like I can't get away with like, oh, I'm taking it easy, or I'm doing this. You can't get away with that because they know better. So I'm trying to, just when I'm isolated or kicking the ball, they can still, oh, he can play a little bit, but that's it, because I jumped in a couple of times and kind of made a fool of myself. So I'm trying not to do that anymore.
That's fair.
It contributes to all of it, the program, and how involved you are, which is wonderful. And from what we've heard in Bloomington, so first of all, I want to start off, how do you like Bloomington?
Yeah,
what's it been like?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Obviously, the last four months been a little different, but yeah, it's a fun place, and we're exploring all the time, and really enjoy it.
So then we gotta piggyback it. I've heard that you are a huge Little Zagreb's fan. Is that the go-to place?
Yeah. We haven't been there in a long time because I'm trying to stay in as much as possible. But yeah, if I have to pick one restaurant to eat here, I would go there. And there's some other good places, but I love steak, and I love I love the culture there. I love the setup, and I love the ease of the menu.
Well, we always like to ask our guests where their go-to spots are. So there's one of yours, but if you, in a perfect world, you're picking breakfast, lunch, dinner, you're going out for all three, it's on the house for Unpaid Interns is covering your tab. Where are you going?
So I forgot the name. What's the breakfast place on Kirkwood, close to the square?
Village Deli. Or no. Uptown Cafe.
No, the one next door, like 2 doors down.
The Farm?
The Farm?
The Farm. I love the Farm. Oh, and she's probably not watching, but shout out to our girl Jenny, who we take all our recruits there and our staff there, and she's always I think she goes out of her way to be our waitress, and I love that.
She might be watching. You don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think Jenny is on YouTube right now, but
Yeah, maybe she'll listen to the podcast.
okay, that'd be awesome.
Cross our
But yeah, I love the farm lunch. I'd love to say Tobias, our student. I hate to say this, but we get it for free as coaches. We get lunch for free at the Tobias Center. So I take any opportunity, and it's really good food, and we can be around the student athletes. So that's my place. It'd probably be changed this year, because it might be some restrictions. But I love Upland. We love Quaffon. Like there's so many good places.
It really is a mecca of food.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's good.
There are so many places. You mentioned the new facilities. Have you been able to see them yourself since they've been completed?
Yeah, so we got toured around twice, with masks on and hard hats, and maybe a month ago, and then like 2 weeks ago with the whole staff, and it's incredible. And supposedly they're kind of finishing up this week, next week, and then right now I think our moving date would be the August 10th. I think is the latest that I've heard, but it's special. It's a huge upgrade, and especially throughout this times where when the process just started of the actual building, when COVID just came around, I was like getting nervous. I'm like, okay, how is this going to affect, besides everything else, the facility? But they've done an amazing job, and it's incredible. You guys definitely have to come by and come check it out, because it's pretty special.
We'd love to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Be back in a month.
Exactly. Welcome anytime.
I meant to ask this to Todd because I know he's been in favor of it, and I don't know if it's the same in the women's game, but obviously this year is going to change the schedule up a little bit, and there's been talks about making it a 2-semester season, fall and spring. Where do you line on that? What are your thoughts on that possibility?
I would love to. It would be if we can play one game a week and have more rest, more ability to recover in between training sessions, more training, right? And play year round. I would love it. Like some of the Thursday, Sundays over, playing 20 games in 10 weeks is stupid. So I think it will reduce injuries. I think it will allow us to give more time off and more time to recover, more training, better games. I think the level of the games will go up. So yeah, I'll be for it. I think, unfortunately, on the women's coaching side, there's not much. Supposedly they did some polls and some surveys with the student athletes, but I think if we lay this out the right way and say, hey, you're going to get 2 days off. We're only you're not going to miss class time because we're only playing over the weekends. You're actually going to feel like a real person when you play on that Sunday, instead of being beat up on a Thursday and then having to turn around real quick and play again. So there's so many factors that haven't been presented well that I think a lot of student athletes would be in favor for it. But I would be 100% in favor.
And I meant to talk to Todd about this as well. We went over with him, but we talked to Steve Aird on Friday. He talked about the impact that Fred Glass made, being one of his hires. You as well, a couple of years ago, being one of Fred's hires. Obviously, he's off to retirement, but what impact did he make to you and your program in his time here?
Yeah, he was awesome. And, first of all, I really appreciate Fred, taking a chance on me, and Fred and Stephen Harper, who Stephen Harper pretty much hired me. I think obviously Fred was responsible, but yeah, he, was awesome. And I think the accessibility to Fred and how much he was around, and just seeing him almost on a daily basis around campus was crazy to me, and something I hadn't seen at other universities, that the AD is just walking around in his Yeezys, and you can just walk up to him and just say hello. It was incredible to me. And I think I feel like the Scott Dawson is even going to be around even more and even more accessible, which it's crazy because obviously Scott is in town here. And so I'm so appreciative of Fred and what he's done for the university. And I'm so excited for Scott Dawson to take it as well. So.
Well, last thing before we let you go, I read this in an article about you that you had a quote where you said the accent makes people think you're better. Do you still believe that?
Well, you got to prove it too, but I think and I think that might go away. It over the early on when I first came to the US, it definitely helped.
Mhm.
You know, and it's still, I think it's still, I think it still helps a little bit. But you know, not to be arrogant, but I don't need it. It just, uh, it just, it helps. It's but I'm just trying to make sure I keep it. That's the only thing. I don't want to. I don't want to. You know, I don't want to
Become
say
Americanized,
Yeah, exactly. I don't
lose
want
the
to.
Dutch accent. Yeah, no,
I
I
talked
saw that
about.
quote and I had to ask you if you still thought that was the case. But no, that's good. Thanks so much for spending some time with us. We really appreciate it. Best of luck this season. Hopefully we get that Big Ten season that you're craving, and you get to get out on the pitch with your team.
Yeah, thank you guys as well for all you do. I love what you guys do, and thank you so much.
Well, we
Thanks,
appreciate
folks.
it, Erwin. Take care. Stay safe.
All right, thank you guys. See ya.
All right, see you later.
Bye.
All right, that was Erwin Van Bennekom of the Indiana Women's Soccer Program. What a show tomorrow. I mean, as I mentioned with Erwin, there were many other things I wanted to ask Todd, other things we could have asked Erwin. I mean, we got 25 minutes with each one of them, and it was just fantastic. And even that little interaction in the middle where they were both on the screen with us, just mutual respect between the two. Just a remarkable episode.
It wasn't enough. 25 minutes, 20 minutes isn't enough, and 25 isn't even either. But I think it's really cool what we heard from them. They totally have that LEO mentality,
Mm-hmm.
like Tom Allen does, what we were talking about last episode. They just want to make sure their athletes, their student athletes, are accounted for and are being taken care of. And I think we learned that today and how important the soccer programs are to Indiana. And this is just the beginning for Coach Van Bennekom's team. Todd has that tenure, but they both are such incredible role models to the student athletes.
Well, more just fantastic guests. We really appreciate both SIDs, Kellen Godfrey and Charlie Duffy, for allowing us the access to talk to both coaches. Really appreciate both Erwin and Todd for coming on. They both seem very excited about the new facilities. I'm excited. We might have to take Erwin up on that offer to go get a tour of the facilities. I bet he'd be
Yeah.
down. But I really appreciate both of them coming on. That'll wrap things up for our Friday episode. Have a great weekend, because you know what, folks? Baseball is back. And when we come out of the weekend, we'll be ready for the NBA and the WNBA and all of the great things that are coming up here in the month of August. So we may be struggling a little bit with COVID cases, but stay positive, because sports are back. And hopefully that will give a little bit of a blanket for people who really need a little pick me up right now. So that'll wrap things up here for our Friday episode. Have a great weekend. For Tamar and Coach Todd Yeagley and Coach Erwin Van Bennekom, I'm Austin Render saying so long from the latest episode of the Unpaid Interns.